Alright, down here in the bottom left spawn position of Tal'Darim Altar is our Zerg player. He's shown himself to be extremely strong. He is Startail Curious.
And at the bottom left, we have our Terran player in red. He is GanZi. And he was able to execute a very, very nice rush against Curious on the first map on Daybreak. Tal'Darim Altar is, of course, a completely different map, but this is still going to be really interesting. I expect Curious to try to get into a macro game, and hopefully, well, at least I hope so, we are going to see a third map, because it would be very sad to see only two maps with those two great players fighting it out in the GSL.
Yeah, and I'm expecting we're probably going to be able to see a longer macro-oriented game here, which I think is going to be a little bit more advantageous to Curious. Not necessarily over GanZi, but more advantageous than getting rushed, apparently, last game. Because Curious is very, very good at the macro game. So is GanZi, for that matter, but hopefully we'll see a nice, long macro game with tons of things being thrown around the map, and that sort of thing. And it looks like Curious is probably gearing up for an expansion build. Yes, he is going to go expansion first. And he's scouting with a drone as well, just to see what his opponent is up to. Very important to find out if your opponent is teching or if he's going for a 2 racks pressure or something like that.
And the start positions favor the Terran player just a tiny little bit, as he will be able to put, if he goes for the Marine tank combination, and as Moltrap already mentioned earlier on, that's one of the tactics that GanZi likes to execute, then he will be able to get easy access to the second base of his opponent by just sieging up the tanks at the bottom of the cliff, and his reinforcements won't have to pass that ramp that leads to the middle of the map. Therefore, they will be safe for any kind of run-bys by Curious. And this is just a slight advantage, but it might turn out to be a decisive factor in the game if the Terran player is actually able to get into that position. That's a very popular tactic by Terran players, just sieging up the tanks at the bottom of the cliff and then using medivacs to put Marines at the top and attacking not only the drones but also the hatchery itself.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. When Curious finds out where GanZi is, he's going to be like, oh crap, I didn't want it to be these positions. This is the worst. He was probably hoping more for cross positions, which would have been more advantageous to Curious. He'd have more time to prepare as GanZi pushed across the map. So yeah, we could see that situation coming up. Indeed, that is kind of the style that GanZi favors, and GanZi is going to actually float his barracks over here. We might see it in a minute. Oh, this is interesting. Curious got a gas, but then decided, upon seeing there was only one barracks, and he was teching, to take drones, not actually put drones in gas, and... Oh, never mind. He did get enough gas for speed. I'm sorry. Then he took him off.
I really like the move that you already mentioned. I'm not too sure if we saw that on the screen, but what GanZi did is just he floated his barracks towards that spot where usually an Overlord is hidden, had one Marine in position in order to chase the Overlord off, and as soon as the Overlord left, he started to build his command center. So right now, Curious has no idea that there's an expansion coming up, and he might even lose that Overlord if the Marine is able to get off a couple more shots. There he is at 30. Oh, just doing the moonwalk at the edge of the cliff. The Overlord is going to die.
It is going to die eventually. Oh, it's still alive for the moment. But he doesn't know if the Marine's going to go around into the main... Oh, actually, a couple Zerglings going to distract are going to also scout the main base. Beautiful move while that Marine was occupied. And the Overlord... Oh, no, Overlord, don't stop there. You need to get farther out or you're going to die to that Marine.
So far, it's still a lucky Overlord. 7 hit points left. And we have the Blue Flame Hellion upgrade for the Hellions. There it is. And at the same time, 2 additional barracks are being built. So let's have a quick look at the base of the Zerg player. Actually, now we have Curious with a lot of Zerglings. He's going for an attack. He's just going to push his opponent. I'm not sure if that is a good idea with the Blue Flame Hellion coming up. So he needs to be really careful. If GanZi is able to micro his units, he is in the leading position. But look at that mineral line.
He's running straight into the main. He's going right after the SCVs. Blue Flame is not quite done yet. This is a beautiful time for Curious to attack like this. The Hellions still take 3 hits to kill off those Zerglings, and he is going to lose those Hellions, losing SCVs as well, forced to cancel 2 barracks.
Oh my god, and there's still Zerglings streaming towards the main base of GanZi, and he already lost 20 workers. He lost 20 workers to that attack of his opponent, and is losing even more. This looks horrible, horrible for GanZi. Curious in a perfect position to end this game.
Now, he does have Blue Flame Hellions now, so he's going to be able to fight those Zerglings pretty easily. 3 Blue Flame Hellions will basically... Yeah, 4 will be enough to kill any number of Zerglings. So Curious is going to be forced to not quite kill GanZi right here and now, but GanZi is in such poor shape. 22 workers total killed. That is disgusting, and that is why, ladies and gentlemen, you wall off as a Terran player. GanZi down to 8 SCVs, and that's only because he's been producing SCVs out of 2 command centers for a while.
And at the same time, we have GanZi now trying to push himself. He needs to deal some damage, and he knows about that, but there's already a Spine Crawler in position. And we have more Zerglings attacking the base of Slayer's GanZi. Here we go.
Wow. And, you know, Curious, he's going to lose these Zerglings. No, he's not, because GanZi's going to leave the game. GG, and we have a tie ball game, ladies and gentlemen. 1-1. It's going to come down to one final match to see who's going to take the series.
There were 2 really, really quick games, but I enjoyed that a lot, to be honest. Because one of the things that we've seen in the past is that especially Terran players get really, really greedy against Zergs. They know that most Zerg players go for that 15 hatch and try to get into the macro game, so they try to expand themselves really, really early. Sometimes we even see the double command center coming up after only a few short minutes. And Curious, he took advantage of that situation and he scouted what his opponent was up to and then just started to cut drones and to go in for that Zergling rush. And even though Blue Flame Hellion finished, it was just brilliantly executed. He was able to stream to the main base and he killed so many SCVs that GanZi was forced to GG.
Yeah, very nicely played, and I like how Curious, you know, he looked to be going into more of a macro game sort of thing while he took drones off gas. He was getting his hatchery up, he got a hatchery first, etc. But he saw an opportunity. He's like, oh, wait, GanZi, you're just going to fast expand with only 1 Marine and 1 Hellion out on the map, and that's all you have, and you're not walled off?
Not on my watch.
I think I'll just take advantage of that situation then and make... 20 Zerglings and just kill you while you're trying to tech up and get your production going. So, beautiful decision by Curious to take advantage of that situation.
Yeah, I really like that a lot. I mean, usually you are usually one is more excited about the really long macro games, but seeing some like this makes me kind of happy because it just shows how the game is evolving. We had all those rushes in the earlier stages, then now with the macro games up, and now players punishing their opponent for doing exactly that.
Yep, and GanZi gets to pick the map. He has picked Antigua Shipyards for our 3rd and final game. We're going to get into it right now.